All right, so this is chapter 2 in Humberto Castaneda's deep dive on immigration and psychology. In the last episode, we went through the history of the world in
part 1,
particularly of the United States, and two non-experts on history and immigration meandered our way through the surface level details, but it gives us context.
Yes.
I think that's important, and especially in the patron zone, we talked about the psychology of transgenerational transmission of issues and the effects of otherizing people and harming people. And so we have set ourselves up for immigration of today.
Yeah.
So you're going to start us off by talking about that.
Yes.
So take it away, Berto.
Great. So this is Liverpool. I've been here once before for 20 years. Do you know what these lyrics are?
No.
They're not said in the recording. I don't know why, but they're listed as the lyrics, the two opening lines for
Led Zeppelin?
We come from the land of the ice and snow.
Yeah.
Immigrant song. This song is interesting. I love this song always, but I never listened to the lyrics. So we come from the land of ice and snow, from the midnight sun where hot springs blow. The hammer of the gods will drive our ships to new lands, to fight the horde, singing and crying, Valhalla, I am coming. On we sweep with threshing oar. Our only goal will be the western shore.
Yeah, well, they're talking about Scandinavians coming to England, right? It's so interesting because when I grew up, Led Zeppelin was listened to by the rockers and the stoners and the cool kids, but I had no idea just how D&D nerdy.
Yeah, right.
They literally wrote songs about Tolkien and stuff.
That's right.
If they were around today, they would be like playing Dungeons and Dragons.
In the halls of Mordor.
I mean, most of them are still with us in terms of being alive, but they're so nerdy.
It's interesting to me because the song is called Immigrant Song, right? My perspective, if you're like, hey, Berto, write an immigrant song. I might be like, I came and it was hard, but I slowly, blah, blah. But this perspective is...
Coming to America.
Right. This perspective is like, we're coming to conquer, right? And it is, in fact, in the last chapter, you were talking about this, like this philosophy of the individual will conquer and we'll go and we'll make this land our own and things like that. And there's something powerful about that. And at the same time, I think it also sets a tone. It sets a tone of like, we are the destined ones. We are the ones that own this place. Everyone move aside. Here we come. And as a result, I think it creates an identity, and that identity is powerful. It's a manifest destiny identity. It's one where the world really is about our story. This is our story. Everyone else is just like bit players. And what it does at the same time is it makes it so that the other countries, the other peoples are less than, and it causes an imbalance. Now, I love the song. I have nothing against the song. The sentiment is fine. It's just interesting because I think that like manifest destiny force of that song is something that we're going to see in a lot of this.
It goes further back in history, the Viking or the Scandinavian conquerors that there were several waves of it in, throughout Western Europe and including England, but it was long enough ago and it's white on white crime. So it's easier to go along with in terms of one's fantasies. But if someone wrote Immigrant Song in part 2, and it's about the English coming to North America or about Christopher Columbus, if you wrote a song about that, of like raping and pillaging and killing and enslaving and extracting and harming and genocide. I mean, the entire people that lived there were wiped out within a few generations, because of raping and killing and also disease. But, if you wrote a song like that, it would be less fun to sing along with.
Exactly.
But so along those lines, we can think about the people that were living in England that were being raped and killed and harmed and enslaved.
Right.
And it's not so fun anymore.
It's not so fun. Okay. So this takes us to what's been happening in the last technically 12 years, or not 12 years because he had 4, then we had 4, so 8, 9 years, let's say. But more specifically in the last half a year. So Trump is not an isolated person. He has a whole movement around him. And this is one that has been characterized by a lot of people, certainly including myself, as a nationalist movement. Many would call it a white nationalist movement. I would call it that as well. But at the very least, it is a nationalist movement, one which looks at the United States as the greatest country in the world and one that has to be protected, where its borders and culture have to be protected from the unwashed, dirty masses of the rest of the world. And there are people in his administration that are very, very vehemently opposed to cultural and racial mixing. Now, so with that in mind, the first thing that started happening is the militarization and border closings. So there was a proclamation, 10886, declared a national emergency. So this is interesting, right? Because it's not just like, hey, we have a problem. Like, it's a national emergency. And the Executive Order 14167 deployed around 10,000 troops and budgeted about almost $400 million in military support for the border. There were also national defense areas decreed, and it also accelerated the wall construction of $70 million for 7 miles, and advanced surveillance to like drive the encounters down. Okay, so all of this has been happening since he took office this second time. Now you might wonder, why didn't this all happen in the first term and so forth? Well, I honestly think that in the first term, he didn't have enough power. In this time, he has enough control over enough branches, including the judicial branch and all, and everyone around him, that essentially what they want to do, they can mostly do, mostly without opposition. So right off the bat, this became a national emergency, all these executive orders. So I started feeling this right away. When he won the election, I was like, wow, I kind of in shock. But when it started and immediately they started putting all these things into place, I went from thinking, oh man, this is going to be tough, to actually started feeling afraid, because I am Hispanic. And even though it's like, well, yeah, but I'm not an illegal, I don't work in the fields, I don't know, I became a citizen. You know, it's funny, when I was in high school, I wasn't a citizen. When I was in high school, I was a green card holder. And yet, back then, I never felt different. I never felt afraid, or I was just like, yeah, I'm here. You know,
yeah, just to remind people of your story, just very briefly.
Yeah.
You were born in Colombia, or in your... So you're born in Colombia. Your parents come to New York or Massachusetts to work because your dad was a child psychologist. And then you went back to Colombia when... So you lived in the New York, Massachusetts area for 2 or 3 years, and then you went back to Colombia, lived in Colombia, and then your mom actually came to the Seattle area with her new husband, your stepdad, and then you came to live with her in the Seattle area when you were 15, and you've lived in the States ever since then.
Yeah,
and you came when you were 15. That was 1990.
That's right. And then my mom went through both my dad and my mom came here on likely student visas at the time, because they were going to college in Massachusetts. They already had an undergrad degree from Columbia, but they were doing graduate studies. Okay. Either way,
student visa meaning you're here temporarily to go.
Yeah, either that or worker visas, whatever. But they were here legally, is the point.
I think you have to emphasize legally, because it's fun. Legally and illegally, for whatever reason, sound very similar.
Yeah, they were here legally. Illegal. I mean, legally. Yeah, no, they were here legally. And that's true. Actually, it's kind of, now that you say it, it's kind of hard to say.
Lawfully, maybe lawfully. Or they were here lawfully. They were here not illegally.
Not illegally. Yeah, okay. So then my mom goes through the process and becomes a citizen. I forget what year, but at some point she became a citizen. On the other hand, when I moved here, I was 15. And so I moved here because, your parent who's a citizen can request you to come to the country. So she did. I came. I got a green card at some point. So when I was going to school here, I was going to high school. And then when I started college, I was not a citizen. I became a citizen in 1996. I went through the whole process. I did the tests and had to study, learn a few things and whatnot. I did the whole thing. And I became a citizen. I've been a citizen now for almost 30 years. And I never once thought about it much. I was never worried about it. I was never, In fact, if anything, the only thing I ever worried about was actually going back to Colombia at that time, because I was afraid they would like conscript me into the army because I never served, like that kind of thing in Colombia. Never worried once about here, my status. Well, when this started happening, I was like, I don't know. I wasn't always a citizen. I don't know. My brother was a naturalized citizen from legal residence, but I was like, what the hell? How far is this going to go?
Yeah, and you expressed fears of relatives that would be deported or would get caught up at the border.
Yeah,
if they went back to Colombia, coming back.
Yeah, a fear, like, can we come back? Okay, so the other stuff that starts happening is there's a publicly stated goal of 1 million deportations per year. 1 million per year. That's saying something. It's like, we want to get rid of 1 million people per year. It was later brought down to 600,000. It doesn't matter. Like, there's a ton of people here. And there are daily ICE arrest quotas, stated to be between 12 and 1,500. Like, they have to arrest that many people every day. It's a quota. They have to meet it. So, of course, we started seeing all the stories of ICE and patrols just going around and like finding people standing around. And that also started worrying me. I'm like, I don't know. I don't necessarily look super, waspy. So should I not stand around at a Home Depot? I don't know what. And of course, we live in technically an area that I should feel safer in. But actually, within 2 weeks ago or 3 weeks ago, one of the teachers in the Lake Washington School District was arrested for suspicion of being here illegally.
Local politics doesn't have any power necessarily, or much power over the federal agencies that do these sorts of things.
Right. All this stuff started happening. And that's the point, is that ICE and all these budgets, they are at a federal level, right? So, yeah, they start getting deployed all around. Obviously, a lot of the emphasis is going to be in the border states, but also big states like New York and things like that. Still, it's stressful. The other thing is that there start to be some rollbacks and suspensions of humanitarian things, humanitarian aspects. For example, there were refugee admissions, right? People could come here and seek asylum and say, "Hey, I'm a refugee from a certain place." So Cuba, Haiti, Nicaragua, Venezuela, there were immigrants coming from those countries and seeking this refuge. And those were like paused. Many of them were revoked. By the way, Haiti right now is, I don't know if you've been following, they're in a ridiculously scary situation where the gangs have taken over. And so to imagine like someone fleeing from there, they're fleeing from a real hell,
Yeah.
Okay. So all that got paused. Central American minors, family reunification, parole, safe mobility offices, all this stuff. Like, they've just put an end to all that. A lot of the things that were in process, if you had your case under review, it's like either indefinitely deferred or terminated. So these were steps taken, showing to me a lack of care, right? Like, we just don't care. If you're not from here, I don't care. We just don't care. Which is also adding to the fear, because it also is not coming from a place of like, gosh, we have reports that people lost jobs in Tijuana or whatever, in whatever city. And no. It's coming from a place of like, we just don't want these people at all here, and we will do anything, and we don't care what age they are or whatever. That's scary.
It's not a very Christian thing to do.
Oh, definitely not a Christian thing to do, right? Like, what would Jesus do? It's the opposite.
He would strap on some body armor and grab a gun and stand at the border and say, "Fuck you, stay out."
Exactly. It's horrible. I had a conversation not too long ago with someone in my life, someone who's a relative, actually. And we were talking about the border and stuff like that. And I think I brought up that there was reports of vigilantes going with their machine guns to stand there and try to shoot people. And this person, who is a Christian, said, "Well, yeah, good." And I was like, these are families. Like, they could be shooting women, children. Like, it's like, well, they shouldn't be coming here illegally. And I couldn't believe that this topic would distort their brain like that to say something so against their firmly held Christian beliefs. It was shocking to me. And I pointed that out. I said, and later that day, they actually apologized for that statement.
Really?
They did.
Wow.
Yeah.
What did they say?
They just said, I'm sorry, I didn't really, something along the lines of, I didn't really mean to say that. Or something.
Mean you say what?
That it's okay to shoot those people.
Oh,
you know.
Wow.
So, but
unexpected.
It was unexpected. Anyway, so
did you
just
thank them for apologizing? Because that's a huge deal.
Yeah. It was a good moment of like, okay, you're not that far gone into inhumanity. Yeeks. But close call. Like, yikes. Even the fact that we're having that discussion.
All right, let's take a break. We get back.
Yeah.
More horribleness. What do you say?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right, we're back from the break. Continue the horribleness, Berto.
Yeah. Okay, so there are other movements that have been happening. Things to revoke Social Security numbers for folks that are, have questionable legal status. Daily fines, asset seizures for ignoring removal orders. So basically, like across the board, we will remove you. Either, and in fact, there's been sheriffs that have gone on TV saying, "Hey, remove yourself." Like, they have an app that they can go and say, like, I'm removing myself, and they can self-deport. They want folks to leave now, or they will be taken. And of course, we saw what happened.
Why would there be an app?
They have a thing so that they can basically take them, say that they're leaving. And I think maybe that lets the authorities know where they're at so they can go. I think it's a little bit of a trick to try to scare them into going to the app, but then now they know where they're at.
What's the incentive?
The incentive is that maybe the authorities won't come barging in, knocking their door down, I guess. But
if they're not there, then what's the diff?
I don't know. Yeah. Okay. And so then the other thing was, as you've, I'm sure, seen, all these centers, family detention centers, started getting reopened. Private prison contracts going out. Like, there's been a $45 billion proposals for private prisons, uses of military bases, Guantanamo, of course, use of the prison in in Salvador, right? That was a huge, horrible new development where not only are you going to get put in prison or deported, you're actually going to get sent to a prison in a different country.
Yeah, and I don't know if you're getting to this, but a big tactic, goal, outcome that they're going for is not just getting rid of people that they don't want in this country, but also instilling fear in would-be people that would come, So it's a terrorist tactic to get people to be so afraid that they won't attempt.
I think you're absolutely right that fear is the number one goal, and then expanding to not only, well, I'm an illegal person here, so I'm afraid, but actually, even if you are a citizen, because they've taken moves to say, like, yeah, I think we can revoke citizenship and we can do this. So essentially, if you're not on our plan, if you're not with the party, you should be afraid. Yeah, absolutely. There's been tons of reports of overcrowding, inadequate care, limited legal access. There was the horrible situation in Florida where they created the alligator Alcatraz. And one of the people in the administration was quoted as saying that they were going to be feeding the alligator 65 million meals. 65 million being randomly the number of Latinos living in this country. So when I hear stuff like that, I get worried.
To be clear, 65 million legal people in this country.
Yeah. Well, 65 million, the estimate is that there's 65 million Latino citizens, green card holders, legal immigrants in this country. So when I hear that, that sounds Naziist. That sounds like, oh, okay, I see. So some of these people actually just want a Holocaust.
Yeah. Referencing our previous deep dive that you led, the neo-Nazi deep dive, I was confused as to why the patrons voted for that topic to begin with.
Right.
Overall, there was like 30 other things.
Right.
I mean, I get how people would be interested, but it was the most voted for topic at the time, and I was like, huh. And before looking into it, it seemed to me that it was a extremely fringe. You're always going to have the white supremacists, the KKK. But in doing the deep dive, it became clear and evident that it's not only infused in a lot of institutions and people. It's not just the KKK. It's not just outwardly white supremacist individuals. There's a lot of just below the surface or whispered behind closed doors or even just flat out podcasters who are, peddling neo-Nazi slogans, even doing the Heil Hitler salute. It illuminated something that I knew was around. Of course, I know racism is here, but I didn't realize just how much it was and how it's on the rise in a lot of ways.
Yeah.
It's appealing to a certain group of people, not only to be racist, which I understand, but to be specifically neo-Nazi.
Yeah.
To be specifically like promoting Hitler fascism. It's fucking bizarre.
I'm with you. I was equally shocked and dismayed. And through this process in the last 6 months, definitely that stuff coming to light, and coming to light now in power. It's funny, when we did that, pretty sure that was during the Biden administration, right? Now it's during this. Yeah.
Yeah, when we did that, it was pre-Elon Musk Nazi salute. And I understand that some people are still debating whether it was an actual Nazi salute. And, I can't know what was in...
Yeah, we can't know if Hitler was actually doing a Nazi salute or not.
Well, we can't know what was in his heart and mind. But the conclusion that I came to about Elon Musk was that of all people on the internet, he knows the Nazi
of course.
Thing really well because he's addicted to Twitter, and I'm not using that word lightly, and addicted to 4chan and all that stuff. And so he lives in that trolly 4chan, 8chan sort of world. He absolutely knows what a Nazi salute looks like and has undoubtedly practiced in the mirror, and knew what he was doing. Now, is he an actual Nazi? I don't know. But should he have known better, or was he doing something intentional? Again, and even if he was intending on doing a Nazi salute, what was he trying to communicate? I don't know. Nothing good.
Yeah. Well, in the height of ironies, the folks that would claim that, oh no, he didn't know better, are the same folks that will claim that he is playing ninth dimensional chess at all times,
right,
running 60 companies in his sleep, and that he's the ultimate genius of all time.
And he had signal amped several overtly neo-Nazi posts. And we don't say that lightly.
No.
Jews will not replace us, the great replacement theory. He's not like our grandpa that doesn't understand the internet, and he doesn't understand he knows the context for it, but he's addicted to that sort of shit. The fact that he's signal amping it, the fact that he is sympathetic to those points of view is, it says something about what's in his heart.
Absolutely. So then the Alien Enemies Act from 1798 was invoked to fast-track Venezuelan removals. The Alien Enemies Act, are you familiar with this?
No.
Yeah, I mean, why would we? It's from 1798. It was meant to be like, hey, we have enemies in this country because guess what? We just had like a revolution and we independentized from these other folk. Like we're talking about like at a time and place where, okay, yeah, maybe there's people trying to overthrow the government.
You're getting at that currently the administration is turning to that as justification for...
Because they were saying the Venezuelan gangs are taking over and our country's at risk. So we got to invoke the Alien Enemies Act from 1798 to remove them, right? So the Supreme Court got involved and started putting some constraints on this, but not enough, in my opinion. Immigration court shakeup, judges fired, directives to dismiss asylum claims without hearings. So asylum is someone comes to the border and says, hey, I'm fleeing. I need asylum. Okay. So you enter a process. During the Biden administration, as you may recall, they were trying to pass a bill that would add a whole bunch of judges and a whole bunch of funding to expedite those asylum claims. This was defeated because Trump said don't do it, because he didn't want any progress made in that front, because it would be perceived as political gains.
Yeah, and to be clear, the funding for these systems wasn't necessarily to let people in. It was to give the experts, the officials, the ability to make a decision.
That's right.
There would be a lot of people that would be turned away.
That's right.
But what Trump wants is for that question not even
to come up.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not like, hey, well, let's put more judges. No, you know what? Dismiss the claims. Which again points to that lack of humanity. Like, we don't care who these people are, what they're coming from. We don't care. We are an individual country. We're not a society. We don't care. Legal aid for unaccompanied children defunded despite injunction. So like they defunded kids come in to the court. They're just little kids. And there was a fund to provide them with legal aid. Like, yeah, take that away. It's like inhumanity. Totally anti-Christian, right? Okay. Student visa revocations. We saw the situations where it was like, okay, you're speaking out against the administration or against something we don't agree with, so we're going to revoke your visa, or we're going to threaten you to just remove you from the country. They did an AI-driven catch and revoke effort. So they essentially put AI on a whole bunch of data to look through and revoke, essentially trying to pull visas from people based on just data that the AI. Later, this was reversed, but they tried to pull 1,500 visas from people. Also, mandatory social media screening was widened. So the other thing that they started doing was like checking your Facebook, checking your Instagram, checking your posts. It's such a Nazi movie kind of thing to do. Like, let's see what you have posted in your, I don't know what accent that is, but imagine that's a Nazi accent. They drafted a travel ban that would affect 43 countries, delay green card processing. It's essentially a full court press across all these areas: the border, the visa process, the asylum process, travel from different countries, student visas, everything, just like across the board. They also passed, or the Executive Order 14160 sought to end birthright citizenship. So this one started scaring a lot of folks as well, like myself, where birthright citizenship is, time immemorial. If you are born in this country, you are entitled to be a citizen in this country, unless there was just a few exclusions. When the birthright citizenship came into being, there was a lot of debate, as you can imagine. And there were folks at the time, senators, that asked, but wait a minute, what about a Chinese person? If a Chinese person was born here, would they become a citizen? And the answer was yes, they would. Like, oh, geez. And of course, because at the time they wanted it to apply only for a limited number of types of individuals. But this was fought and passed, and it was passed to say, no, if you are born in this country, you are entitled to birthright citizenship. The only exceptions were if you were born from parents that were known, they were at war with us, basically. So in a situation where they're like at war, they're invading the country, and you're born, then that didn't count because you were born from invaders, right? There was a couple of limitations like that, but they were very obvious, like specifically things that, I guess we don't want this. But in every other case, you were born here. So when they sought to end the birthright citizenship, that sent a new alarm, because it essentially, and of course the argument is like, but the parents are here illegally. Their children shouldn't benefit from that. But at the same time, in the same breath, they were also starting to say, plus we also want to cancel citizenship for a lot of people, right? So that's when someone like me starts getting worried about relatives I have who were naturalized, they had birthright citizenship. It's like, okay. The other thing is another executive order to name English as the official language, which normally, normally in any other time, if this had happened in the 90s or whatever, I might have been like, oh, yeah, that's cool. English is the national, because I probably wouldn't understand the implications, right? But right now, the implication is like, it's this thing about borders and culture, right? We want to preserve the culture. And these are always these dog whistles about like, it is the supremacist stuff. Like, we only want our people. We want people that look like us, people that talk like us, people that have our culture. We don't want anything else. So that's another one of those signals, right, making English the official language. You were saying something interesting, which is in the previous episode, you were talking about how when people came to the country, one of the things is like, hey, we want to assimilate, right? And in the Neil Diamond song, there was that line about like, never look back. And the ominous implication might be like, you better assimilate, right? But that's always been sort of a soft, or not always, I shouldn't say that. But I mean, at least in the more recent time, when I came here and stuff, I always felt it was a softer assumption. You see a lot of communities where, I have Asian friends like yourself. I have other friends whose parents barely speak English. And I have Korean friends who, when I would go to their house, they would only be speaking Korean. Right? And I never thought, I better report him to the authorities. It's just a thing, and in fact, I lament the fact that I don't speak enough Spanish at home to my girls, because I want them to learn the language better, and I've been doing it more. So this kind of move is another thing that gives one pause, like, oh, okay, what is the intention behind that?
Yeah, what would that mean to make English the official language? I assume it would mean that all publications from the federal government would only be in English, for example.
Yeah.
But you can't have language police invading the Korean home and telling them that they can't speak Korean in their house.
Right. Again, it's one of those things that normally I'd be like, okay, I guess that's weird. I mean, why are you spending time on that? But fine. But in the context of everything, it's like, yeah, I see where this is headed. It's
a part of a full court press of white supremacy.
The other thing is, you might have heard about this, the gold card. Have you heard of how like they offer? They haven't enacted this, but the idea is that if you pay $5 million, you would get this gold card visa that would give you a legalization path. So essentially buy your citizenship with a lot of money, right? Which again, actually this one seems a little grotesque, but I could see at different times, different contexts, like, hey, if you want to bring your business to the country, we'll incentivize that. We'll make it easier for you to get citizenship or whatever. Like, okay. But in the context of everything else, it's like, yeah, I get it. You just want your little oligarch buddies, no matter who they are, no matter what criminals they might be, to come pay for it's just gross. Gross. So this is everything I just read was from an analysis from the first 100 days. It's not even like all the latest stuff, but this is what has triggered communities like my community to be very afraid.
Let's take a break. The rest of this episode will be for patrons of the podcast. You can listen to this whole episode and all of our other deep dives if you become a patron, if you've been on the border line, if you will. If you've been thinking about emigrating into patronage, now is the time, because we accept all.
We accept all.
And otherwise, please take care of yourself because
you deserve it.